it's Daphne. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going through some of my all-time favorite romance books to date. So this video was requested by one of my viewers, Lola. Thank you for requesting this and thank you for being patient with me as I make the time to film and edit and post this video for you. For this list, I'm going to be going through about 17 books, so I have a lot to talk about, and they're not in any particular order. I'm really stingy when it comes to ranking romance books 5 stars, but all of these books are like high 4 stars. I was very entertained. They served its purpose. Like some of them, you're going in for the emotion and the depth, and others you're just going for a fun, steamy, wild ride. And if it delivered what it set out to do, I am a very happy reader. So I'm gonna go through this list and I'm gonna start off by going kind of with an obvious one, so we won't go for that long, but People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry is definitely a favorite of mine. This book was just so well done. Like, it's a friends to lovers, and the first half of the book I really didn't understand like how this was a romance. It was just, I don't know, like I was just kind of looking for more in the first half, but all of that build up and relationship you see with their, like within their friendship, is so worth it in the second half. And I believe I actually rated this 5 stars. So quick mention of an obvious pick. Then a book I've talked about a million times, I have to mention Blockshot by Kennedy Ryan. This is the second book in her Hoops series, and I was just obsessed with this. Our hero, he is at times a bit of an anti-hero. Like, he's not the nicest man to other people, but he worships the ground our heroine, Bannon, I believe her name was, walks on. And I just love like a hero that is so madly in love with his person, and I eat that stuff up. So it was very hot, very fun. It has a curvy heroine. There's a lot of drama, a little bit of cheating, and it has to do with like professional athletes and that industry, even though our main characters aren't professional athletes, but they work with them. And I loved it. That whole series is pretty solid. And then a recent read is The Kiss Quotient. So I've been sleeping on this book for literal years. I bought this so long ago, and then I only read it maybe within the last 6 months, and it is so good. So this story is about Stella and this guy, Michael. Michael is pretty much like an escort, and Stella is on the neurodivergent spectrum, and she just needs help discovering what she wants sexually, and she hires Michael to help her, and it's them falling in love. Michael is also half Asian, and it was just a really fun time. I liked how it kind of broke the mold of the typical romance formula. It just did something different. Like, it kind of went backwards. Like, they started out really high with like sexual expectations, and then they kind of just brought it down to like knowing each other and like building that up. And I don't know, I just thought it kind of broke the mold, and it did it very well. So I loved this one. Next, I have Heartless by Elsie Silver. This is the second book in her Chestnut Spring series, and I definitely gave this one 5 stars. I loved it so much. Like, the first one is solid, but the second one is just magic. So this one is about a single dad. He has like a young son, like about, I'd say maybe 4 or 5-ish, and he needs a nanny. So that's where Willa comes in. She's pretty well off. Like, she doesn't really need the money, but she kind of just wants to be around her best friend who lives near our hero. And she agrees to be his live-in nanny. And he's such a grump, and she's just so like free-spirited, kind of go with the flow. Doesn't really know what she wants to do with her life, but she's just like joyful. And he just falls for her, but he's trying to resist it because it's a little like forbidden because she works for him, and just the way it was written was just so delicious. I would definitely recommend it. I want to like read Elsie Silver's series in order, so I read the first one in her original series. It was okay, but I kind of want to like continue that series before I continue on with the Chestnut Springs series, because all the characters tie together. And I just want to get the full picture. So hopefully I'll prioritize that soon. Then for a wild, crazy, over-the-top, extreme ride, I loved Does It Hurt? This book, you kind of need to suspend your disbelief a bit, but it's just really fun and wild and highly entertaining and very steamy and just like hate to love thriller aspects. So this is a story about our heroine. She's kind of like on the run and you don't really know why. And she meets this guy who's like a marine biologist, and they have instant chemistry. They spend like one night together, and she steals his identity because she's on the run, and he's pissed. So when he finds her again, he wants revenge. And then they end up on like this deserted island, and there's this creepy man, and it's them trying to survive for like the next 30 days or something until a shipment boat will swing by, and hopefully they can catch a ride off this spooky island. And there's just so much craziness that ensues. He hates her so much for like her stealing his identity. I will say his like revenge on her for it went like 100 times more extreme than like what she initially did to him. So I feel like him trying to like punish her for betraying him and like da-da-da-da was just like way across the line for what was necessary or fair or even or reasonable or whatever. He's 1000% red flags. Like, women should not go for a man that treats them this way. But in a wild ride of a book, like, I was very entertained. I was very entertained, and it was hot. It's not realistic, but it was fun. That's enough said. Next, I have Feral Sins. This is a wolf shifter romance. There's a lot of pack dynamics in this. So this story is about our heroine who needs to escape her original pack. Her father's kind of trying to marry her off to this really horrible other wolf pack leader. So she ends up making a deal with this different wolf pack leader to marry him so she doesn't have to do what her father says and deal with this like abusive, crazy psycho guy. And our hero agrees, but I don't really remember why, but I just loved their dynamic, and I absolutely eat up like a mating bond scenario. And with wolf shifters and stuff, there is this mating bond, and they're like creating this mating bond and like discovering how deep it goes, and just like the dynamic of how this werewolf shifter world works. And they're both alphas, so like their dynamic with that is very intense. And just like all the bedroom scenes were just so spicy and like wild, and like I just ate it up. I just ate it up, okay? It was so good. Another thing that is like not super realistic, because like since they're like basically wolves and it's fantasy, it gets like aggressive, you know what I mean? Like it's aggressive for them in their bedroom, and like she's making him earn it, you know what I mean? Like she's not making it easy. And he's trying to show his dominance, and it was just very hot. Next, I have The Company of Fiends. Again, this is another second book in a series. This is the second book in like a reverse harem monster series, and it's really fun. I really enjoyed this one much more than the first one, and I think it was because you get to see these monsters more as individuals, and I just like loved these characters so much more. I think our heroine is like half fae, or like she's fae and she's hiding it. And then there's like a demon-like monster. He has wings, he's red, he's so sweet. There's a man with like 6 arms, he's like a giant. There's like an orc. There's another fae guy. There's this monster that can like split into 2, so he's like one person, and then he splits into 2, where one causes extreme pleasure when you're touched by him and the other causes extreme pain. And like that dynamic was like interesting. I think that was it. I don't know if there was any more characters. I read this a little while ago, but I just loved it. And it wasn't just like everyone was just obsessed with her. Like the guys had their own relationships and dynamics with each other too, which felt cool and interesting to explore. And yeah, I would definitely recommend this series as well. There's like an underarching plotline throughout the series. I'm excited to get to the 3rd one. I don't know if it came out already. I should check. And that's like semi-interesting, but I'm mostly here for the romance. obviously, and the smut, clearly. The next book I want to talk about is The Dragon's Bride by Katie Robert. This is the first one in a Deal with the Demons series, I believe, and I gotta admit, I've reread my favorite scenes in this book probably like close to 100 times. I don't know, maybe that's an exaggeration, but like at least 50 times. Like realistically, maybe 50 times. I don't know. And that's probably because I like own it. I bought the ebook version of this, so it's easy to just go back on my Kindle. I didn't like return it to KU, but still, it's so fun. So the premise of this is that our heroine is in dire straits and she ends up making a deal with the devil. And the deal is that she gets sent to this like other realm where this dragon gets to try and seduce her. So, and she has to be there for like 7 years or something. And the dragon and like the other monsters in this world really want to reproduce with humans because it like enhances their magic, like it keeps the magic alive, like they need human blood in the realm. But he can't force her, he can't mistreat her or whatever, otherwise the deal on his end is broken and she gets taken away from him. So it's that story and him just like being the sweetest man, like monster dragon man, and he like looks beastly. He's not like transforming, like he has like jaws and like claws, and I think he has and he definitely has a tail. And I just loved how like sweet he was, but also like how like strongly like he cared for her and like wanted her, and then he would go like alpha mode. And there's also like this mating instinct in him with her, like this mating bond thing. Again, the mating bond, I just love it. I will say the second book in the series, the one with the Kraken Sacrifice, was not good at all. That's one you could definitely skip over. It was not good. And then The Gargoyle's Captive is the third one, and I think it recently came out because I saw, it looks like it came out at the end of March. I saw Hannah was reading it, and I can't wait to read that one because she said she was liking it way more than the second one. And that just gives me hope again, so I'll probably pick it up very soon because they're quite short. I think they're like less than 300 pages easily. And they're just so fun. Then if you're looking for a slow burn romance, of course I had to pick one from the queen of slow burn, Mariana Zapata. My favorite one that I've read so far is All Roads Lead Here. And this one, our heroine, she like works in the music industry. She's like a songwriter, but I think she like broke up with her ex or something, so she decides to return to her hometown. I think she moved around a lot, but this was like the last place she spent with her mother. Her mother was really into hiking. I think it's like in Colorado, I guess. And her mother went on a hike and then went missing. And our heroine obviously has been very damaged by this because they never found her mother's body. So she's going back and she just wants to like reconnect with her mom and see the trails that she did. So she's getting into hiking and she ends up renting the space above this man's garage, and it's their slow burn romance. And he's a bit grumpy. He has a teenage son. He's a single dad. It was just really good. I think there was a lot of women's fiction aspects in it too, because Mariana Zapata's books are so slow burn. It feels like women's fiction for a lot of it, with like hints of like romantic intrigue and interest, and then at the end they like explode. So it was just really sweet. It was definitely on the sweeter side for romance books, and I would definitely recommend, obviously. Next, we're going back to fantasy. So a book that I really enjoyed was Death, I think by Lauren Thalassa, something like that. This is the last book in her Four Horsemen series, and the Death one was my favorite. I'd say the first three kind of follow the same formula where the heroine meets the horseman and she like changes him for the better. With Death, they did like a new twist because our heroine, for whatever reason, can't die. So she'll like have a tragic accident and like technically die, but then a few hours later she like heals and she's alive again. And she's trying to stop death from like ending the world. And it's their story, and all of the horsemen are like virgins, and when they fall in love with the heroines, it's just like really sweet, but also like dire stakes, and they're clearly like against humanity. Yeah, it was a fun series. I had fun for sure, and Death was my favorite one because I felt like it kind of broke that mold of the first three. Though I will admit I did skim like the fight scene at the end because it's a romance and you know it's gonna work out, so I'm like, why am I acting like there's stakes in this fight. Like I already know it's gonna work out. You know what I mean? So I just like skim that part. Then for a historical, I put The Raven Prince. This was a really fun historical. So the premise in this one is that the heroine is like a secretary or something. I believe she like applies to work for our hero. I don't know if he knew she was gonna be a woman, but he really needs her help. He has a lot of insecurities about his looks. He has like scarring on his face, like acne scars, like pock marks or whatever. And it's a little bit of a take on like Beauty and the Beast, I guess, because he's really insecure about that. And our heroine is very beautiful, but she's still really attracted to him. I don't want to spoil it, but she kind of tricks him by hiding her identity to be intimate with him. And he's obsessed with her, but like becomes obsessed with this person, this other person that's really her, but he doesn't realize it's her. And there's like this hidden identity thing because of that secret. And I don't know, I just ate it up. I loved their dynamic. I loved how much he wanted her, even though he thought he was attracted to somebody else, but he was like thinking of her the whole time. And like, I don't know, again, it's just another hero that strongly like is in love and obsessed with the heroine, and I just ate it up. I'd say this book, which is the first book in the series, is my favorite out of all of them. The other ones were fun as well, but like this one takes the cake. Some quick hitters for a contemporary. I loved The Hating Game. It literally had me laughing out loud right in the beginning, and it's just like a solid contemporary, fun, lighthearted read. And then for a read that you'll struggle to put down, I loved One to Watch. This is a story about kind of like The Bachelorette. This plus size woman gets selected to be the Bachelorette because she kind of on social media critiqued the show for always picking these cookie cutter perfect people. And it's her like trying to find love and trying to figure out who's really there for the right reasons. And like, if like, I don't know for everybody, but at least for me, I consume this so quickly because I would be reading it. I'm like, oh my God, I hope they're there for the right reasons. Like, don't treat her wrong. And like, I was so anxious for this heroine that I needed to desperately get to the end to see her happy. So because of that, I had to put this on this list, and I definitely want to reread it. Like every time I watch The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, I think back to this book. I'm like, wow, that was such a fun time. I kind of want to read it again. So super fun, but stress-inducing at the same time. But overall, lighthearted. Then for vampires, I am obsessed with Vampire Instinct. This is another book that I've reread over and over and over again, like practically cover to cover. Maybe like, I'd say 70% of it, I'm like reading every single word of the whole book. This is like kind of far into a vampire series. You could try to read it as a standalone, but like just how the world works, it might be a little challenging. It is vampires, it's BDSM, it's like master-servant kind of relationships, but I just ate it up. This one in particular is between a vampire who is Native American, and he lives on an island and takes care of wild cats, like jungle cats, like big cats, you know what I mean? And he has like this sanctuary for them. And just seeing her heal and him like fall in love, and again, it's like this mating instinct, and it's not like exclusively mating with vampires, like it's not quite like that, but it's just this innate draw to this other person that you just can't resist. It's just like there's something magical about your connection with them, and he had that for her where he had never experienced that before, and I just loved it. And she was like really innocent and sweet, but also so like strong and determined and passionate about caring for those around her. And I just love it. I will say there are definitely trigger warnings for rape, not between the main characters, and violence for sure. Lots of violence. Obviously it's BDSM too, but that's like separate violence. Like there's like actual evil violence that happens. I enjoyed the series overall. I think I read maybe like 12 books in the series, and it's like so long. It's like 20 plus books or something. And then I kind of burn out and haven't picked it up in a couple years, but I really enjoyed this one in particular. And then a book I read many, many years ago, and I'm desperate to reread, is The Bronze Horseman. Sorry, you can't really see it because it's so weirdly lit in my apartment. This is like a Russian romance story, and I think it takes place over a war. I don't remember all of the details, but it was like wrong place, wrong time kind of romance. So our heroine, she is very, very poor. Her family is very, very poor, and she falls in love with this man, but he's like engaged to her sister, and the timing is just not right. And I think he's like a soldier, and his life is at risk, and it was just so dramatic and like heartbreaking. And I thought this was a standalone when I read it originally. Like, I reread it at least once or twice. I read my favorite scenes many times, but I thought it was a standalone. So when it ended and they weren't together, I was like, what? Like, they have this magical thing happen and then they're not together. I just thought it just left like that, but apparently it's a trilogy. So I found the third one at the thrift store, so I own it, but I don't have the second one, so I have to order it off Amazon probably. So I do want to read them like back to back to back, hopefully not in the distant future. So I really love this one. It's very dramatic. I wouldn't say it's like super, super heavy on the romance. There is a little bit of steam, but it's not like the steamiest. It's not like, don't read it for the smut. Read it for like the drama and the hints of romance and the pining and the heartbreak and the family dynamic. Like, that's what I remember about this book. It stands out in my mind. It like endured the test of time, and I want to read it cover to cover again. So adding to this list. The next book I want to talk about is Beautiful Bastard. I originally read this in high school. I like was reading it for free online, and then I loved it so much and I reread it so many times that I bought like an ebook copy of it. And then when I read it again, it was like almost a completely different book. Like, the free version had so many changed scenes. Like, somebody just wrote them differently. It wasn't the same book. But I still loved this, and I probably loved it more because it wasn't all formatted weird and like messed up and not actually the story. But this is a workplace forbidden romance. Our heroine is like the secretary for the hero, and he has just been pining after her, but he like hates that he wants her. And then one night, like late in the office, it just comes to like a peak and they have a moment. It's definitely like an enemies to lovers, hate to love situation. I just ate it up. I just read it so many times. There are just like so many like ridiculous scenes that are just like stairwell, elevator, like conference room, you know what I mean? Like quintessential workplace steamy romance, and I loved it. And then I continued on in this series and read Beautiful Player. I don't remember if this is the second one or the third one. I reread this one many, many times. I don't remember exactly, but I believe the heroine is like new to the city, and her brother asks his friend to kind of watch out for her, and he's the hero, like this friend. So they're like getting to know each other. They're like running together. They're like becoming friends. And she asks him to like help teach her how to be more sensual and like to get experience in that realm. And he agrees. And it's that friends to lovers situation. It's like that teaching trope or whatever. And I just ate it up. He's like a tattooed character too. And he's just so sweet. And the only thing that I really, really hated in this is it has that like third act breakup miscommunication trope thing. But if you can overlook that, like, it's a really fun time, solid contemporary romance. I've reread it so many times. I loved it. I should probably, I don't know. There's just so many books I want to read, but like these favorite ones I really want to reread again. But it's like, oh, there's so many other books that I have to read for the first time, you know? So yeah, definitely I recommend all of these books. Obviously this is a recommendation video. I hope you pick some of these up and I hope you love them. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already. And I will catch you in another video. Bye.